Hey guys, so since his firing from the FBI, Andrew McCabe has been going on a press tour to either promote his book or put his side of the story out, or really at this point, who really knows what is motivating him to be speaking so much. I mean, when you really think about it, both McCabe and fired FBI Director James Comey have been coming out with books criticizing the administration and the president. Is this really common as a practice when you get fired from the FBI to quickly write books criticizing the American people and their president when you haven't even really been gone that long from the department? I mean, the guy himself is still under investigation, and his book title has terror and Trump in the same sentence. To people who really don't understand or operate on implicit bias or just plain old bias against the president, this is really just being shots fired with no intended target. I'm not sure what to do with this information, but I, as well as I'm sure many other people, are tired of our high-level officials coming out so publicly against the president. If it's true about what they say, then the president is an agent or whatever or not, then they need to do whatever needs to be done and leave the personal feelings and especially the books out of it. It's really starting to get under my skin, and they continue to leave the department and have books waiting to be released almost instantly. Here's a clip of Andrew McCabe responding to criticism that Trey Gowdy lobbed against him in regards to him speaking so publicly about everything that's going on about his case in an interview that he had with PBS NewsHour.
Former chairman of the House Congressional Oversight Committee, Trey Gowdy, is this week criticizing you for revealing that May 2017 briefing of the so-called Gang of Eight congressional leaders about the fact that you had opened investigation into President Trump. You said that in that briefing, the Republican leaders in the meeting didn't raise concerns, but Mr. Gowdy is saying you know that congressional leaders just cannot talk about classified briefings like that. So you've been able to put your version of what happened out there. They're not able to respond.
Well, I think that there's already been discussion of that briefing. Mentions of that briefing have already been in the public sphere. So I'm not, and I've many years of interacting with leaders on the Hill and all kinds of different committees. My experience has not been that they are reluctant to discuss their business, but nevertheless, I have simply related my experience and my observations. And to be clear, it wasn't just that the Republicans didn't ask questions and the Democrats did. It was that the Deputy Attorney General and I convened the group, provided an extensive, detailed briefing of the status of our case, and we did not receive any questions or pushback or resistance or concern from any of the membership or staff in attendance about the steps that we had taken.
And you're saying that they should be able to speak about it?
No, I'm saying that if that was the reaction I would expect from people who thought that we had done the reasonable and necessary thing. That's what I took away from the briefing, that nobody objected because we had taken a step that was clearly called for by the facts in our possession at that time.
Last thing I want to ask you about is your firing from the FBI.
Sure.
The Inspector General said in so many words that you were not candid. You didn't tell the truth on a number of different exchanges with the Inspector General's office about sharing information with the news media. Your attorney said today that the investigation into all this is still underway. And I think the question is, why is this investigation still underway? Who's doing this investigation? Where does this stand? I know you've disputed that version of events, but the fact that it's still going on, help us understand what's happening.
Well, it's maybe a little bit more nuanced than that. At the conclusion of their investigation, the Office of Inspector General referred the matter to the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office for investigation, and that's where it's still being pursued. So that's what my lawyer was referring to, I think, in those comments. They are. Whatever work they're doing continues. My attorneys are in frequent and regular contact with them. I really can't say much more about it.
And you've said you plan to sue the Justice Department.
Well, I will. I'll bring a civil action against the department, challenging the circumstances around my termination. Judy, I'll tell you that I have deep disagreements, and I completely reject the conclusions drawn in that report. The Inspector General is well aware of this. We've made our position clear to him in the past. I can tell you that at no time did I ever intentionally mislead anyone, not in his office and not in the FBI. I've been consistent about that. The process that I was put through, both during the investigation and after the conclusion of the report, is not like anything I had ever seen in my time serving in the FBI. And I had, oversaw numerous matters that were handled, investigations of alleged employee misconduct. So I will be challenging that process as well. And finally, I don't think it's a surprise to any of us that the result delivered by the Inspector General is exactly the one that the President was calling for publicly. A president who, long before I had any interactions with the Attorney General, with the Inspector General's office, had made it clear both to Director Comey and to others that he wanted me gone. So when you add those circumstances together, all things ignored in the Inspector General's report, I think you'll see a very different side of things.